Koppel, host of the Time for Coffee podcast, where you get first-hand career advice into the jobs and industries that interest you the most. And before we start today's show, I have a quick favor to ask you. If you haven't already, I'd be incredibly grateful if you give us a rating and a review on iTunes. And if you're like me, you need to do it now because you'll forget later and because it's the best way to help others who may be in search of career advice to find this free resource. So press pause if you haven't done it and do it right now. I'll wait. Thanks so much and enjoy today's show. Hey there, Java Junkies. Welcome to another K-Cup mini episode of Time for Coffee. By the way, K-Cups come in 3 sizes, single, double, and triple shots, or roughly 1 minute, 5 minutes, or 10 minutes in length. So if you don't have time to throw back an entire caffeinated career conversation, these K-Cup mini episodes of T4C can give you a quick caffeinated fix, whether you're on the go or you only have a few minutes to binge. So grab your mug and take a chug, because it's time for a caffeinated career double shot K-Cup with my guest, Dr. Amy Killen.
Well, let's flash back even farther, not that long ago, to when you were in college. You went to Texas.
That's a very long time ago.
What was that?
It's a very long time ago.
Not that long. Little over 20 years. You went to Texas A&M and you got a BS in biomedical science. Did you know what you wanted to do with that degree when you graduated?
I had no idea. I just liked science. And so I went into biomedical science thinking I like science. It wasn't until towards the end of my junior year that I started thinking about medicine. In fact, everyone else around me was going to go in, they were all pre-med and everyone was like, I'm going to be a doctor. But I didn't think I wanted to do that. But then I realized that I wasn't sure I wanted to be a research scientist either, which is kind of the other thing people would do. And so I started thinking about medicine as something that would be interesting. I was working at Yellowstone National Park for a couple of summers during college. And at that point, after my junior year, I was working at Yellowstone. And I realized that I should take the MCAT, which is the test, to get into medical school. But I didn't have any testing materials or courses, or this is before the internet really. So, I didn't know how to study and all of that. So I kind of had to piecemeal together my MCAT studying while I was working at Yellowstone. But that's when I decided to, try to go to medical school and see what happened. And eventually it ended up working out.
Right. So a year later, after you graduated, you did go to medical school. You went to the University of Texas Southwestern Medical School.
Mm-hmm.
And then you did your residency in emergency medicine at the University of Arizona. What was your first job after you graduated from your, I don't know if you graduate from residency, but after you finished your residency, and how did you get it?
So my first job straight out of residency was in Austin as an emergency physician. So I went straight from residency into a full-time job. And that, I was set up well to get that job. It was a pretty competitive job, but I had, I was a chief resident at my program. I went to a really good program and I had connections in the space. So it was a pretty easy transition to go from residency to that job, just from the things I've been preparing for it for essentially 7 years.
What advice can you offer our young viewers, our listeners, about how to develop those relationships that could be beneficial to them when they do leave school and go into the working world?
It's so interesting because relationships really are everything at this point now, right? Like everything I do is because I know someone who, got me in. I'll tell you a funny story. When I was in college, I had all these really big classes, these big science classes and, 300 people, 400 people, like just huge classes. And I didn't even go to class a lot of the time, but I would always just listen. And I was a good learner. I could learn on my own. I never interacted during the classes. Like I didn't know any professors. I didn't talk to anyone. I just was like head down, get my good grades, whatever. Then I had one class that was an honors history class. And it was a small group. It was like 20 people in a circle with a professor. And, I did my normal thing, head down, didn't talk to anyone. And halfway through the year, my professor pulls me aside and she said, listen, you are not doing well in this class. You're going to get, because I had like a 4.0 at that point. So you're going to get like a B- if you don't start talking and interacting, because this class is about class interaction and you're not doing it. And so I did, I was like, okay, I guess I'll start talking. So I started talking. And eventually at the end of it all, I had to get college, recommendation letters for medical school. And I didn't know any professors except for that one professor who made me interact with her. And she ended up writing me an amazing letter of recommendation. But, you have to make an effort with the networking, with the talking to people, professors and other people in the community, because they really are, they kind of hold the keys to getting into that next level wherever you are in that path, I think.
So did you then become more, engaging with your professors in medical school, or how did you change things up so that when you got ready to move into your post-residency job, you actually had the relationships to help you?
That was after college, but it was towards the end of college before I learned that lesson. But once I got to medical school and residency, I realized, in medical school, it's the same way. Like the people who ended up writing me recommendation letters were the people that I actually spent time really really working hard with and talking to, and tell me about your family, just really trying to get to know them, because those you need those, whether it's letters, recommendation, or just introduction to friends or introduction to business opportunities or whatever it is. And now that I'm out on my own, I'm sort of an entrepreneur, and I do speaking, and I do everything I do is because I've met someone who knows someone, like all the groups I'm in. I do a lot of networking. I do a lot of events that my husband is like, are you sure that was a work event? Because all you did was go to dinner, and it seems like you just had parties all weekend. I was like, yeah, it was a work event. I was networking.
That's fun. Yeah, but I think you're right. And it makes sense. Here we are, we're doing this interview on LinkedIn, which is the networking platform.
Yep.
That I think is still understandably intimidating for college students to really engage on. So hopefully they will reach out and connect with Dr. Killen and me for sure. I would love to have them connect with me.
Thanks for tuning in to this K-Cup mini episode of Time for Coffee. If you want to listen to our entire caffeinated career conversation, please check out the show notes for this episode. Thanks so much for listening to this latest episode of T4C. And if you're interested in learning more about my coaching services for confused college students and recent grads, feel free to check out the Time for Coffee website under the coaching tab at time4coffee.org, or text me at 202-236-5712. That's 202-236-5712.